And moving on to the Cleveland Cavaliers versus the New York Knicks in the first round. Styles make fights. These teams marry each other a lot. Play a defensive, gritty style of play. Offense slowed down to a halt. But dynamic scores on both sides of the ball for this teams. I can't wait to look at the matchups of this playoff matchup between the Cavaliers and Knicks. Looking at especially at the backcourt there, you got Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell on one side. You got Jalen Brunson and R.J. Barrett on the other side. And of course, Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson matchup. These guys are two dynamic scorers in the NBA. You cannot say enough about both these guys here, especially Jalen Brunson, who basically came from Dallas and turned his play around. Really, really showing people what he's made of. And kudos to him. He could make an all-NBA team. People are kind of hesitant on that. Possibly he should be there. I'm not going to sit there and argue against people who sit there and say that he shouldn't have the spot. I think there's a couple other guards there that are better than him. But this guy has really stepped up, really led the way for the New York Knicks, and that's pretty much what they needed, right? They needed a point guard to kind of calm stuff down, kind of get a bucket, move things in the right direction. He's been able to do that all seasons. Kudos to him. Can't say enough about that guy. Like, he really has the Knicks, playing well. Has the Garden buzzing again, I should say. And looking at his play against the Cleveland Cavaliers, he's at 25 points a game with 6 assists. That's basically his numbers. He's been one of the best players since the turn of the new year, and has really been out there balling, scoring, assisting, playing tough defense, and really helping the Knicks in those games, those late game situations. And against the Cavs, he had a big 48-point game, which really jumped up his scoring against the Cavs. And that's what I'm looking forward to. Donovan Mitchell has 31 points against this team, 7 assists in 4 games. He's averaging those type of numbers. So these guys are big time scorers for their teams. And I'm looking forward to see those guys going at each other. You know, looking at Donovan Mitchell, has been one of the best playoff performers in his short NBA career, has been able to score the ball crazy. I think he's like third in all-time playoff scoring. Like, he gets buckets. Like, he's that type of guy there. You got Jalen Brunson who's going to match up and go against him. And styles make fights. I think there's a lot of things that the Knicks can throw at the Cavs, but you can't forget Darius Garland, of course, in this matchup as well. R.J. Barrett there. Like, there's a backcourt dynamic here that's going to be entertaining. You know what I mean? Like, these guys are going to really go at each other. Moving on to Julius Randle versus the Twin Towers, obviously Allen and Mobley. Julius Randle has been able to get 23 points and 10 rebounds and 5 assists. Usually that's close to his all-NBA numbers, I believe, from a couple years ago. So he's back playing at that level, and he's able to do it against 2 bigs for Cleveland, who was number 1 defense in the NBA. So it's going to be a real challenge for Allen and Mobley, especially Mobley, to see what he can do against Julius Randle, who's able to slow down Julius Randle and see what they do there. And I think that's something that's going to be an X factor there. If Julius Randle is able to get those guys in foul trouble, put the pressure on the Cavs there on their front line, the Knicks have a couple of advantages there, you know, and I think that's something that Cleveland should be worried about going into there. But I think that Cleveland has an advantage with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. I just think they have the better players on their teams. But looking at Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley, 2 guys that can get you double-doubles, roughly around 15 and 10 rebounds a game between the 2 of them. 2 dynamic guys that can actually score on the front line, right? Like, they're going to have a big series against this front lineup against Mitchell Robinson and Julius Randle. So there's something there that they can do on that end of the floor that gives them a little bit more balance, right? Like, they're good on the defensive side of the ball, but these guys are 2 bigs that can score. So that's going to be something that they can put the pressure on Julius Randle and the Knicks on their front line, and especially defensively. They're going to be able to block shots at the rim that the Knicks can't, right? Like, they have 2 guys who can get blocks and play out and really cover on the front line and be able to help. And I think that's going to be something that's going to be an X factor in this series on the front line, especially between these 2. These guys are going to be great. They missed the game they missed the playoffs last year by a game because of the play-in. They just didn't have Jarrett Allen, who came back, and it was just like I think the Cleveland was up in the 4th seed at that point in time, but they fell all the way out. They were able to have Jarrett Allen, able to have Evan Mobley, And moving forward, I think that's something that's going to benefit the Cavs. I think them being at full strength is going to be enough in that series. But let's look at another dynamic here. The Knicks bench versus the Cavs bench, a known versus an unknown right here. You know what I mean? You're looking at the Knicks who have Quickly, they have Hart, they have Hartenstein, Toppin. They have a couple guys that they can throw at you where Cleveland doesn't really have that stability on their bench. Karis LeVert, Isaac Okoro, Cedi Osman. When you start naming those guys, it's like they are either one-way guys. Like those guys can score the ball. In terms of Karis LeVert and Cedi Osman, those guys can score the ball, but defensively, not really there. And especially on the offensive, it's really streaky. It's really inefficient, up and down on that end of the floor. But with the Knicks, you know what you're getting out with Josh Hart. You're getting a guy that can really shoot the ball, rebound the ball, and really defend. Quentin Grimes, who's out there. You know you're going to get a 3-and-D guy. He's exploded at times during the season with his scoring. And then you got Quickly, who's in contention for Sixth Man of the Year. That's an edge to the Knicks, right? Like that could be a dynamic there where those guys can also be able to play with the starters, be able to guard Darius Garland, be able to guard Donovan Mitchell, at least provide some resistance there. If you go to the bench for the Knicks, like if anybody gets in foul trouble, you can at least know you got guys there that can catch and shoot, that can create their own bucket, that can defend at their positions, especially in the backcourt. And Cleveland, you're just waiting to see if somebody on that side steps up for them, right? Like that's been one of the missing pieces there. I thought Kevin Love was going to be that for them early this year, but then he wanted out, ended up going to Miami. They never haven't really been able to fill that void. Danny Green came in over a trade. He hasn't really caught on as yet. So it's like, what are you getting out of your bench if you're Cleveland? I think there's going to be very, 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 very heavy set on the Cleveland starters, Donovan Mitchell, of course, but I think Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland can navigate through that series and really provide a boost to Cleveland where they don't really have to worry about their bench. The bench just has to hold on for a little bit until they can get a rest and come back and start scoring. And I think I give Cleveland the edge in that series just because I believe they have two of the best players in the series. They have a number one defense, and if those guys are able to break down and be able to get buckets, I'm going to give them the advantage in that series, despite the Knicks having an advantage with Julius Randle and having an advantage with their bench. I think Cleveland can come in and really provide some problems and really take that first-round series against the Knicks, maybe 4-2. I think Cleveland in 6. It's going to be interesting to see what that does going forward. With that series, I can't wait. With the NBA playoffs coming, Cleveland hasn't been back since without LeBron James since like 1998. That was Sean Kemp, Zydrunas Ilgauskas, that team. I believe they lost to Indiana in that series there, so that's tremendous for Cleveland. And for the New York Knicks, they have that season where they were let down against Atlanta a couple of years ago when they got to the Eastern Conference Finals. Atlanta did. And that was kind of off the back of the Knicks, right? Like the Knicks came in, thought